Good morning, friends. This is our day 4 message in our series that is entitled Journey to Joy, a 5-day journey to a joy-filled you. And this is intended for April 9, Thursday morning. So far we've covered in our previous days, joy is something that God can and desires to restore. God is the only source of true joy. And yesterday we discovered that joy is something you experience as you experience Jesus. So today's message is entitled, How Does It Look to You Now? How does it look to you now? And the point that I want to get across today through the Bible message is that joy thrives in an environment of expectant, hope-filled living. So joy thrives, it grows in an environment of expectant living, hope-filled living. So our verse is kind of an interesting one that needs a little bit of backdrop to it to really appreciate its full impact. So here's the setting. We go back to 538 BC. So you can remember when Cyrus, who was the leader of the Persian Empire, they had been, of course, joined by the Medes. They had actually succeeded in conquering Babylon. Remember the story in Daniel chapter 5 with the party that's going on inside by the Babylonians. Then you have the damming up of the river Euphrates. And of course, Cyrus and his men, the gate is unlocked and they are able to go in and conquer. One of the very first things that Cyrus did, in his first year of being the new king of that whole area, is that he made a decree that allowed the Jews to return back to Jerusalem and to rebuild their temple. Well, this was a direct fulfillment of what Jeremiah had prophesied, that God would, even though there would be 70 years of captivity of Daniel, the Jews, Ezekiel, some of the others taken into captivity, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, that God would, after those 70 years, allow them to return home. And sure enough, Cyrus gave that decree. So during that time, there's the book of Ezra and Nehemiah gives a great kind of historical account of everything that took place. But also during that time, there is another prophet that God sends to his people, especially to bring encouragement. His name is Haggai. And here's what's interesting. Haggai is the shortest book in the Old Testament. And Haggai was only a prophet for his messages only for a length of 4 months. So, if you got to be a prophet, which, Jesus spoke of, nobody really appreciates a prophet, that especially their hometown, right? That if you got to do it, 4 months is something that maybe would be preferred. So during that time where God's people come back and they start the process of rebuilding the temple, God notices that the Jews are experiencing they start off on a great note. They get the foundation built, if you remember that. But after the foundation was built, there was opposition from the Samaritans and some of the surrounding neighbors. They didn't really like the idea that the Jewish nation may be starting to rise up again. They didn't really want any competition, that type of thing. They ended up complaining, and they succeeded in getting a shutdown of the work that was going on in Jerusalem. Well, now we fast forward to 520, so about 17, 18 years later, there's another emphasis and push where Darius the Great, not to be confused with Darius who threw Daniel in the lion's den, he's interested in kind of religion of his empire. And so Haggai and Zechariah began to preach in his second year of reign, Darius the Great, and he actually allowed the Jews to go back and to start the rebuilding again of the temple. And so it's an important time. There's been a kind of a lax in the work in the temple for quite a number of years now, over a decade. And so God is trying to inspire and encourage and to give enthusiasm to the people to come on, you can do this. And he does it through the message of Haggai. So in Haggai chapter 1, I want you to listen to verse 14, and with that backdrop that God is trying to encourage, come on, you can do this. Don't they had become a little bit lazy, a little bit for inactivity, a little lethargic, and so God's trying to arouse them. And so Haggai chapter 1 verse 14 says, "So the Lord sparked the enthusiasm of Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and the enthusiasm of Joshua, of Jehozadak, the high priest, and the enthusiasm of the whole remnant of God's people. They began to work on the house of their God, the Lord of heaven's armies. So God is sending a message of enthusiasm to try to encourage them and stir them up. Now, our question that we use for our message title today comes now in chapter 2, verse 3. Now, remember, there's no chapter divisions. Chapter 14 and 15 of chapter 1 segues smoothly right into chapter 2. And so God comes, and on the 21st day, it says in verse 1, the 7th month, God comes to speak through Haggai to the governor, to Zerubbabel, and here's the Lord's message to the governor and to the remnant people that are gathered there. The question from God to the Jews is this: who of you is left who saw this former house in its glory? How does it look to you now? Does it not seem to you like nothing? Who of you is left who saw this house in its former glory? How does it look to you now? Does it not seem like nothing? So there were some really old folks there that had even remembered the glory of the temple as a young child. Now they're up in their, maybe 80s and 90s. And God is saying, so how does this look to you now? The temple is just in rubbish, in heaps. And some of you can remember what it used to look like before. And it's a strange question by God. Like, why is God asking this difficult question, reminding them of how it used to work? And I've always thought that question was really important, because God knows that our attitude of how life looks to us plays a very important role in how life lives out for us. Like if I believe that my day to day or my life is going to be filled with hard things, difficult things, discouraging things, maybe I'm a type of person that I'm just waiting to what the next bad thing is coming around the corner. God knows that actually helps to shape your reality. And so God is saying, look, I'm trying to encourage you. I'm trying to bring you enthusiasm. And I need your attitude. I need you to realize that even though you can remember these old former things, I've got something new planned for you, and I need you to believe it. Like God needed the people to believe the new plan was, we're going to rebuild this temple. I'm with you. So in our lives today, we are encouraged to live expectantly. Now, the word expectantly means to be to live with an excited feeling that something good is about to happen, right? So when I live expectantly, and I'm thinking of good now, then I'm living life through a lens that believes that coming around the corner is actually good. It's not what the bad that's coming around the corner. In fact, I remember that. You remember this? Some of you will remember this little chorus. I just feel like something good is about to happen, right? Like the Bible actually encourages us to live that way, to live life expectantly. And I would suggest to you that living life expectantly, expecting good to come, expecting the blessings of God, expecting that God is going to do something in my day today, my week today, my month today, that is actually encouraging and joy-filled, that's a great way to live. And I would suggest that living expectantly is a choice that I have to make every day. Like to actually believe that God has good plans for me today. So I choose to think of what could go right today instead of choosing an attitude of what could go wrong. There's a big difference. So literally spending time with Jesus every day, and as you spend time with Jesus, making a choice early in your day to say, you know what, I expect today to go well. I refuse to dwell on what could go wrong. Now, let me end with another scriptural passage to support this idea. I love this verse. So let me read it in the King James Version first. Psalm 5, verses 1 through 3. And as I'm reading these words, some of you also may know another song that goes along with the words here of this great psalm. Psalm 5, the first three verses. Give ear to my words, O Lord. Consider my meditation. Give heed to the voice of my cry, my God and my King. For to you will I pray. My voice you will hear in the morning, O Lord. In the morning I will direct it to you, and I will look up. Now, I love that in verse 3. I will look up. So the New Living Translation on verse 3, listen to what it says. This is awesome. Listen to my voice in the morning, Lord. Each morning I bring my request to you and wait expectantly. Did you catch that? So the I will look up, King James Version, same words translated there as, and I will wait expectantly. Can I encourage you today to live looking up? Remember, our thought for the day is joy thrives in an environment of expectant, hope-filled living. So throughout this day, eyes up, look up, and expect good things, great things from the Lord today. Blessings on you throughout the rest of your day.